Number 7 seed in the West region.
Number 3 seed here is... And how about the 3 seed here? Kentucky. They didn't play at full strength until the beginning of March, Clark.
Yeah, that's right, and they are a dangerous team. As a matter of fact, I actually spy a chance to move them to my Final Four without even seeing the rest of the bracket.
Oh, all right. Well, let's see who they're facing, and it's Oakland. And how about Greg Kampe in his 40th season there, a 3-14 matchup in Pittsburgh.
But if Kentucky gets out and runs and gets out to a lead, Oakland with the 307th pace, they are not a team built to come from behind.
Reed Shepherd's going to be a star in this NCAA tournament. Antonio Reeves, Rob Dillingham, I mean, they got some talent. And I think they get it going here, and they beat Oakland.
I don't see Oakland winning. Give me Kentucky to move on pretty easily, and I got them in my Final Four.
Kentucky, too talented, too much offense. Give me the Wildcats to cover the 14.
Here's Gohlke again, putting up a 3 and hitting a deep 3. It's good! Wagner. Here he is again. Oh boy! Gohlke comes off a screen, fakes the 3. Now he'll take it. Yes, sir! Great closeout. Right out on Gohlke. He'll take it anyway. Why not? West of Detroit. Gohlke makes it in! Gohlke comes off a screen, puts up a 3. It's good! Comes to get it with 10 on the shot clock. Here's Gohlke again. What? His 9th 3! Gohlke again. Yes! Nope. Reeves puts up a 3. No good! And Oakland with the March memory of a lifetime. Chance to change our lives. They did just that tonight.
40 years in, you just pulled off the greatest upset in this program's history. How'd you do it?
This guy right here, he had no conscience. We talked all week. Just go shoot it, baby. You're the best.
How did the Golden Grizzlies look so good?
You do uncharacteristic things. I mean, Gohlke was unbelievable.
Lights out shooter. People were calling him the male Caitlin Clark.
Wow.
Yep. Dogs are live. Oakland University pulling off the upset of the tournament, defeating the frauds, Big Blue Nation of Kentucky. A 14 over a 3. Jack Gohlke, you are absolutely electric.
What Jack Gohlke did tonight against the Kentucky Wildcats is something I'll remember for the rest of my life.
Who the hell is Jack Gohlke?
Oh, who the heck is Jack Gohlke?
I guess you could just fill in the blank. You're supposed to know who's on Oakland? You're supposed to know who's on the Golden Grizzlies? You're supposed to know who Jack Gohlke is?
Neither one of us really are basketball players, Lisa or I. This was just Jack's passion. In fact, with Jennifer's team, I was quote unquote a coach, but I was basically watching Jack so that he didn't get in the way of Jennifer's practices.
I think he started, I don't even know how old he was, maybe 5 or 6, started in a program called Upward. So he was on a team, and that team name was the Celtics. So that's kind of where his Celtics love came from.
From probably 3rd grade or 4th grade, he knew as much about basketball as I did.
Like, I played all the sports when I was a little kid, and my family was big into sports, whether it was watching on TV or playing out in the yard. And I think from that point, I just kind of tried to get everyone to play basketball the most, just because that was my favorite thing to do out of the 4 sports that we played, and just kind of ran with it from there and just kept going, whether it was joining club teams or AAU teams, whatever it was. I just really loved it.
Some of the neighbors still to this day tease about, he was almost late for the bus, half the time, because he was just out there shooting, and last second he would put the ball away and, go meet the bus. I think he was in about 6th grade, and one of his trainers really wanted him to switch up his shot. His shooting actually did get worse as he worked on that form, but getting the ball up high, and getting that shot off. And by 8th grade, that was starting to come around that, he really was focused on, shooting long distance rather than, just taking it to the hoop.
High school was a real positive experience. I think it was because he grew up playing with all these kids in club ball. So club ball was kind of through maybe 7th and 8th grade. Freshman year, he played JV. He did not play varsity. And then sophomore year, he played varsity.
Number 22, Jack Gohlke.
Junior year and senior year, his best buddy, they just were a really good duo.
Check out these lines. This is not for a sale. They're not giving away anything free. These are people waiting to get in New Berlin West High School to see Pewaukee face off against Whitnall.
2 of the top teams in the state.
I think it's so wonderful that people like high school basketball.
So many people, in fact. This 3,500-seat facility was standing room only even before the game got started. Many people said they came here tonight to watch Whitnall player Tyler Hero.
He's going to Kentucky and he's going to be a superstar.
But both teams have excellent fans cheering them on.
It would have been the summer of 2017, and so that's the first time we hear about Jack Gohlke. Good shooter, high academic kid, and the process and the start of recruiting Jack Gohlke occurs at that time.
The whole process of, him finding a school and such was kind of interesting.
Hillsdale called me and invited me on a visit, and then me and my dad kind of just studied up a little bit after that.
We went over really thinking, it's just a visit. Next thing you know, they're offering Jack a scholarship. And as I remember, as we walked out to the car, I was like, Jack, do you know that they basically just handed you a check for $160,000 plus?
That was a big surprise and something I hadn't gotten or expected from any other schools at the time. So I think a couple weeks later, I made the decision and I figured Hillsdale was a great place to get an education, and I trusted Coach Tharp to be my coach and to kind of help me grow as a man.
When we met him and met his father, we knew that he was the right kid, and that was so important to us.
Lisa, myself, Jack's sister all went to Wisconsin, a very big school, a lot of stuff around, and we're a little bit concerned about a smaller school like that. But as we step back, we realize basketball is going to be Jack's fraternity. He's going to make those relationships. He's going to have those lifelong friends, and and that has happened.
He was going to be a guy that was going to continue to grow. We didn't know how good he was going to be, but we knew that he was going to be the right person in the locker room, and he sure was the right person in the locker room.
Freshman year, it was interesting because I think they had like 8 seniors. So it's like, what's going to happen? And, pretty quickly it was decided he's going to redshirt.
It was definitely tough, and I would say it was hardest my first 2 or 3 years.
His sophomore year, he wasn't really getting in much. And when he got in, it was like, okay, you're in for a minute or two, you miss a shot, you're out. And, so he really worked on that. In fact, one of his trainers from here in Pewaukee would literally have him sit on the bench. He said, get in and make a shot. And go sit down. Get in and make a shot. Go sit down.
So my last year at Hillsdale was 2020 to 2021, and we had 4 all-conference players.
Brown, shake and bake move.
So it was just like kind of a weird plug and play for Jack. He'd get in his 13 minutes a game, and if he hit a 3, he would stay in longer. But we were one of the best defensive teams in the country. We were starting, 6'4", 6'8", 6'8", 6'8", and 6'1". Like, it was just hard to plug it in. We were just so dominant defensively. We won 17 straight games that year, so we weren't going to change too much.
We were so balanced. We had, ideally we were hoping for finding 5 guys that averaged 12 or 13 points. Gohlke had the blessing and the curse that he was playing with an All-American center. And our first priority was to get the ball inside to Patrick Cartier.
Cartier, nice move down the baseline of the rack. He'll finish that time. Urian to the right wing. Applegate drives it. Nice dish off. Cartier with the slam.
Kind of was struggling at first, but then got really close with my teammates especially, and I think that bond that Hillsdale creates, whether it's with your athletic team or with your fellow students or even the professors and the coaches around campus, everyone's just really close and really tight-knit, and everyone really just gets along and wants to see each other succeed. He redshirted his freshman year, as did I, and I think Jack will admit too, like, it was the best decision we ever made, because that first season, in order to play, you had to lift, get stronger, get bigger, where I think we both gained 10, 15 pounds that year. All right, how am I gonna, then the next year he didn't play as much, so let's get way more shots up. And then by the time I left and some other guys left, he was ready to just step in right away, like a seamless transition.
So the time that he put in that no one else saw, right? And the things that he was doing day in and day out, and then all of a sudden at the end, in national television, everybody saw what he was able to do. And so the people that were most close with him, his teammates, his former assistant coaches here, at the same time, yes, surprised that he did that versus the University of Kentucky in the NCAA tournament, but yet we weren't.
I think like the biggest thing when I saw, even just his freshman year, is how high he elevates when he shoots. So it's just really impossible. It's really hard to block or contest.
Jack and I started having conversations about, you really need to get yourself, we need to get you on the move more. We need you to be able to come off screens, heel toe, off balance, right? And being able to hit shots. You saw him just every single month, year by year, his game kept on developing and developing. And ultimately, he's the one guy that deserved the credit for that, right? Because he was his craft of shooting the basketball was developed in the morning, early in the morning, afternoon to evening.
Jack's just like super like to the point and very organized. It's like step by step by step. Like in order to do this, in order to get here, you have to do A, B, and C. And that's obviously helps in accounting.
Some advice that I've always been given is just that to trust your process.
And he trusted that process. That's the biggest thing. Like someone can tell you one thing, but for you and for Jack to just end up trusting that process, you know, that takes a lot of faith.
Confidence is a skill. It's not something that people innately have or don't have. Someone might have a little more of it than someone else, but I really think confidence is a skill, and no matter what it is,
if you put in the reps of practicing your specific skill, then the confidence is going to come up with it as well. So for me in basketball, it's shooting and trying to improve and be comfortable in every situation. And once I'm comfortable in workouts, then I'm even more comfortable in games, and that confidence just raises along with it.
Every single day, he was in the gymnasium by himself with the gun, the shooting machine, and he was constantly working on his craft. And he was with assistant coaches all the time working on his game as well.
Every day after practice, Jack and I shot. We always played shooting games for like imaginary dollars, and we would always, in the locker room, we would put whoever won that day on the whiteboard in the locker room. And most of the time, I think it was like 50-50, and then towards the end, he ended up winning.
Jack was one of those guys that if he missed a shot, he had that mindset that the next one was going in. If he had a bad game, rarely was there two bad games. But it was all because of the time that he put in and day out. And that was the beauty of Jack Gohlke. He kept on making himself better and better on a daily basis.
Guard from Pewaukee, Wisconsin, number 3, Jack Gohlke.
One of the greatest stories that I'll share with you is Jack's junior year, when we won the Elite Eight here, we moved him into the starting lineup. Of course, he was excited about the opportunity, but the person that he was replacing was somebody that was incredibly close to him. And that was he was like, was Tavon okay with that? And Tavon, of course, was, and it tells you everything you need to know about Tavon, but it tells you what type of person that Jack was.
I think that Jack is an ultimate teammate. He really wants what's best for the team.
Jack didn't start the first half of the year on that Elite Eight team, and they were struggling offensively. They needed more spacing on the floor, and that's when Jack started to start, and then they went on a huge run.
We would not have gone to the Elite Eight and had the success of back to the NCAA tournament his 5th year here if it wasn't for Jack Gohlke.
Hillsdale is definitely like my first home 100%. Like Oakland was amazing to me, and I'll obviously never forget those memories, but Hillsdale is really like where I went to school. That's where I feel like I became who I am.
People will say that's Jack Gohlke from Oakland University, but we all know that he's really Jack Gohlke from Hillsdale College.
I think he didn't care where he played. He just wanted to play one more year because of that. He had that COVID eligibility.
College athletes who play in the spring will have the chance to return for another season. It comes after this year's spring season was canceled because of COVID-19.
When it was the decision to transfer, I thought it was important for me to find the right place for Jack Gohlke. And during that process, during the recruiting process, the Oakland University was the place that I was kind of cheering for. And the reason why is there's two coaches there that, Greg Campy, the head coach, and Jeff Smith, who I had relationships with. But I think that Coach Campy and Coach Smith use shooters better than anybody else in the country.
He knew the background of Oakland as always having a shooter, and if I can be the shooter, I will do that.
When I was making that transition to Oakland, it was definitely a little nerve-wracking, just trying to figure out where I'm going to fit in and how things are going to go. But at the same time, it was one of those things where I was lucky enough to have the 5 years. I got my undergrad from Hillsdale, my accounting degree, and I was all locked in with that. So I kind of treated my 6th year at Oakland as like a professional year. Once I got there, it was just kind of blend in and work out as much as I can, try to improve myself so that I can have a chance at the next level, which I always wanted to do.
It became this perfect marriage where Campy was going to use him, run him through all these different screens, let him fire as many threes as he wanted to.
I felt like I was really coming along, really fitting in with the team and kind of carving out a role for myself. And we had a summer trip to Italy, which was a ton of fun. I think it really helped our team kind of connect and grow together.
Jack said that was what made the year. They bonded so well. Jack wasn't the only one coming in, but was expected to be a starter, but he said that trip to Italy really bonded them very well and kind of set them up for, we're in this together. And ironically, Tharp was on that trip to Italy. So here Jack is taking this trip to Italy with his new Oakland team, and Coach Tharp is there with him the whole time. So Jack said that was pretty neat too, just having Tharp there.
So middle of that year, middle to almost 3/4 of their season at Oakland, Jack kind of is going through a slump. So I saw it. I knew the struggle was occurring. I wasn't coaching at the time, and so I was having some conversations with Jack. But they play up at Wisconsin Green Bay, and I think it was a Thursday night. And Jack struggles, and I'm not sure if Oakland won that game or lost that game. I think they may have even lost that game. I get a phone call from Jeff Smith, either on that Thursday night after the game or Friday, and Jeff's the assistant coach, and Jeff and I are very close friends. And he said, "Hey, listen, we're worried about Jack. We need Jack. Coach Campy's even thinking about benching Jack." Jeff at the time, I think, was a little concerned that Coach Campy was going to put him at the end of the bench and may not, ever see him again. And I said, "Smitty, I said, listen, I know Jack well enough. He'll get going. I just think you guys need to, just tell him."
One of the things that most people don't understand about that season was Jack hurt himself pretty bad. He was doing a plank with a 45-pound weight on his back, and it slid off, and first of all it hit him in his head and then in his arm, and he basically was concussed, and he had a huge knot on his shooting wrist. And most people didn't notice that, but that was about the time of the slump. And I went to see him at games, and he'd have a huge ice pack on it, and it was a big knot on his shooting arm. Really, that was it was an injury that he tried to work through, and he had some okay games still, but he just didn't get back. And I think there probably was a little bit of a confidence issue, that man, I'm not hitting anything. But they finally, then he had a poor game at Green Bay, with a number of family members around, and I'm sure that was hard for him. And then I think Coach Campy had a talk with him about if we're gonna finish this season strong, you got to start stepping up.
Coach Campy pulled me aside, and he told me word for word. He said, "If this team doesn't win a championship this year, it's your fault."
A Saturday afternoon matinee in the upper division of the Horizon League as the Oakland Grizzlies pay a visit to the Milwaukee Panthers.
Right away the next game, we're here in Milwaukee. We had no idea how many people were going to be there. We knew, my family, Lisa's family, were going to be there, but we get there and we can't believe the number of people that showed up, from Jack's high school, just friends of all of ours. And he was having a good game, but as the game got toward the end, and okay, we needed a 3 to stay in it.
Excellent ball movement. Gohlke for 3, bring it up.
Okay, now it's overtime. We needed a 3 to get to double overtime.
Milwaukee by 3. Gohlke for 3, ring that. Oh my goodness.
And it just seemed like every shot he took, he was just getting further and further back from the three-point line, because that was the only place he was able to get a shot off, and it just kept going in. And they always went to him At the end of regulation, at the end of the first overtime, at the end of the second overtime, he always delivered in those big spots.
Here's the rebound over to Townsend out of the backcourt. Townsend circle routes, and the Oakland Grizzlies.
And like everyone from Milwaukee, everyone from Pewaukee was there to watch Jack, and I'm just like, what the hell, like this is the coolest thing ever, where, I'm watching like one of my closest friends just do this on the Division I level, like you just can't beat it.
Just a really big moment for me, just to feel all that support, and I think that's definitely part of the reason why I kind of turned things around and started being the player that I'm supposed to be again.
I think that game in particular, in my opinion, as an outsider, right, I wasn't in the locker room at campus, I think that game in particular was the game that springboarded Oakland to the success that they had the rest of the way.
And here he comes. Just over 3 minutes in, Jack Gohlke. This guy's become a folk hero, legend.
Cause I knew you then, and I know you now. And the longer it goes, well, the better I know somehow. Is that you haven't changed, you're still the same. From the first time that we met, you smile into my